what's up? This is Tizone, and welcome to the Hitlanders Podcast. My guest today is the R&B gospel singer-songwriter, Angel Sessions. Hey, Angel. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tizone. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is going to be a blast right here. You definitely have the credentials.
Thank you.
So how long you been in the business?
I've been in the business for about 25 years now.
Oh, wow.
25 years. Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to sing?
Well, ever since I was a kid, a little girl, I think starting when I was 6 years old, I was listening to a lot of, commercials on television. So each time a song started to come on, one of those jingles, I would sing along with it. And my mom used to come in the room and peek in the room and hear me sing. And I was shy, so I would kind of stop singing if I saw her staring. But the songs were always I would just love to sing along. So as I got a little older, around the age of 11, I started writing my own songs. And it started out writing a lot of love songs, gospel songs of Christ, and my love and my passion for him since I was a little girl. And I just started writing a lot of songs and running it to my mom and asking her what she thought. And so I started singing in church when I was a kid, started at 13. I was one of the lead singers in my choir. And I presented them some of the songs I've written and was able to direct the choir to sing some of my songs. And I just knew it was just something passion that I had inside of me. And I wanted to, grow up and be a professional singer, songwriter. I didn't know anything at that time how to go about it, but I knew it was definitely something I wanted to do.
Okay. So I see, so far you've collaborated with a lot of well-known artists such as Lenny Williams, the Delfonics, Freda Payne, Woodson of the Temptations, the Dells, Mary Wilson of the Supremes, the Dramatics, and the list goes on. Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Wow, that's an impressive bio.
Yeah, thank you. And the Stylistics, I didn't get a chance to put that in there, but with them as well, with them on their album that came out in 2010. The single was called Painted in the Sky, so produced by Maurice White.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a blessing. What happened was back in 2019, the early 2000s, Fantasy Records out of Berkeley, California, reactivated one of their labels, Sax Vote Records. And they had, wanted to go after all the legendary artists that were still doing their thing and put out an album on them. Now, I was one of the newcomers at that time, me and another young lady out of Atlanta, Georgia. So we were the newcomers, and I was able to, work with all these great legendaries that I remember my mom listening and growing up and her playing their records a lot and just listening to a lot of them and many others that I, love listening to. And just being able to meet them in person, they were very down to earth, and recording in the studio with them and touring with them, singing also not only doing duets with. I think my first album, Introducing Angel, I and LG Reynolds from the Dramatics did a duet on that first album called Hello Love.
Wow.
And then the second album, it was Love Right, and it was reactivated by Vote. So I had what was Andre Simone from the Prince of and the Revolution. He produced some songs on that one, and many other great producers as well. And then I did a duet outside of that with me, Lenny Williams, Brenda Holloway, and William Hart of the Delfonics. We did a duet called A Brand New Start that's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
And also I did a duet with Ollie Woodson of the Temptations.
Wow.
We did a duet called Vow. And, that all that's still out there. Anyone wanted to go and stream it or download it. So, yeah, it was really wonderful being able to work with them and also my own projects as well. And Mary Wilson came into play because in 1999, I met her at the time she was trying to put together a new Supreme group But around that time, it was a time with her and Diana Ross was going to come together and do a reunion of the Supremes. And it didn't work out. So I met her again in 2004 when her manager was looking for another Supreme to join the group. Now, this time Mary was touring around the world as Mary Wilson and the Supremes, singing all the Supreme songs. And so my good friend Karen Newman, who toured with her around that time for like 7 years, she's been touring with Mary. They had lost one of their sopranos singers and they needed another replacement. So she said, I know this girl named Angel Sessions. You should hear her. She's perfect for this. You know, contact her. You know, she has an album. Here's her record. Listen to her voice. So the manager called me and he's like, yeah, I heard a lot of great things about you. I heard your voice. It's beautiful. And I want to fly you into Vegas to go meet Mary Wilson. And we would love to, sign you on to be the Supremes as the soprano part. So wow. I'm like, oh, of course, that was static. I was excited. And so I flew into Vegas, met Mary, and then we went over all the steps and she gave me all the beautiful gowns, things like that. And I had to practice with my friend Karen and then, sign the agreement and just tour with them for a while. While I was still doing my own thing. At that time, I was not only doing my own thing as far as my own music, but also managing my own girl group I had at the time called One Unity. It was my daughter, Shardella Sessions. And so I was juggling between managing them, and they had a deal on the table with Sony, managing my own career, and touring with Mary Wilson. So it was a lot of work at that time. It was like, a lot of times we would from Detroit, Chicago, wherever we went, the people was really acceptable. I mean, of course, they loved Mary Wilson, and we just do all the songs, Stop in the Name of Love, and all this. Hand gestures and our gowns, things like that. And what I loved about the show was because Mary always let me end the show with me doing a duet.
Oh,
not duet,
good.
with me doing the lead singing. And I was singing Donna Summer's song, Last Dance. So I would end the show with that song.
Oh, and okay.
People got a chance to hear my voice. And they were in wild, and there was a lot of press there. A lot of people were interviewing us a lot of times. And it just made me feel great. It made me feel like, a star, even though I know I had my own thing going, but I had to wear a lot of hats. So I had to take off my hat and say, okay, I got to put my projects aside because in this situation here, I'm the Supremes. And then, then after I get back home, I got to finish up my music because I had shows to do with my own stuff and then get back and then wear another hat and be the manager of my girl group. So yeah, it was really wonderful. It really was.
Okay. So it sounds like you love the touring and performing part, and I see that you actually performed at the Grammys party.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was I had a friend, and she passed away, but she was my very good friend. Her name was Bonnie Sweeney, and she resigned at that time in Sacramento, but she would always put on the Grammys pre-party in Los Angeles, California. So I met her through my good friend Lauren Reed. And so I flew to her house and then we talked and she would say, I will let you sing. She said, because she was a Clyde Davis at that time.
Oh,
so
wow.
like Clyde Davis today would put on all the events. At that time, before Clyde Davis, it was Bonnie Sweeney. Everybody in the music industry knew her because she was that girl that put on the Grammy pre-party every time just before the Grammy. And so she would ask me to sing the song, My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, to, open up, the show. And then she said, then you can sing whatever you want as far as your own material. Mm-hmm. So of course I would. So with being able to do that, I was able to, perform at the Grammy pre-party and of course meet so many other wonderful people that were there presenting their awards and things like that. And it was just and she was just so sweet to put me on. So she did that a good 3 to 4 years of me going to the Grammy pre-party because she was the woman putting it on.
That's a really, really impressive thing. The pre-Grammys party. Yeah. That's good. So what keeps you motivated now to do music? Being the climate of the music business now. So what keeps you motivated?
I just have this passion and love for music that, Christ has installed in me since a child, as I said before, and just loving to sing, loving to write, and loving to be able to share my gift to my fans and the people. I just love singing. I love, how people respond and when they say how my ministry or my vocals or my song touches their heart or whatever they're going through, whenever that song means to them. And it's even wonderful more now because all that has happened to me in the past, I've learned to grow from that and growing now into the new industry of today with social media and, the industry constantly evolving itself and changing and becoming different and newer. I learned to evolve with it and learning from the old school now to the new school and combining it together and just still with this passion of this music that God has blessed me with, it just keeps me going.
So I always ask artists, like, what do you feel about the streaming aspect of the business? Being that, you was in the era where there was CDs and, how do you feel about that? How do you go about embracing, the streaming era?
I embrace it because it really does help independent artists. I know in the past it was difficult for anyone to get a record deal. I know because in that past time, I was a lot of times shopping for deals and I had many opportunities to even be signed. But when one door closed, another door opened. So if it was God's will for me to have been signed, then that would have happened. But I've had many opportunities to be because I've had a lot of labels that did want to sign me and I wanted to be signed. But, at that time working with some people in my life, sometimes people can come into your life and there could be stumbling blocks. So now with today, instead of people trying to shop a deal, not that they can't, because they still can, labels are still, always in search of great talent. Mm-hmm. However, with streaming, I think it's wonderful because it helps, people to get to know who these wonderful independent artists are. There's so many great artists out there. And now you get a chance to listen to them through streaming. And I think streaming is just wonderful. It allows you now that you can, if you build up enough, Billboards open the doors now, whereas you can even chart on Billboard through streaming, whereas before it wasn't that way. Mm-hmm. And it just allows an artist to grow and, to get, you can still make money through streaming.
Right.
And get your music heard through lots of fans and that know who you were before to get discovered. So I think streaming is wonderful, and I'm grateful that it's here.
You have some really impressive streaming numbers, like 500,000 streams on Spotify, 6 million streams on SoundCloud. That's impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's grown since then. It's like I now have almost 900,000 now. And that's just on the song Ready to Rock. It has nothing to do with the rest of my songs. That's just on one song, which is the latest single I have out there pushing currently. Okay. And it's heading towards a million streams on that one single. So, wow. And yeah, I'm grateful to that. And 6 million streams on Ready to Rock on SoundCloud. So I'm glad that single is doing what it's doing and currently just pushing that. And of course, of the other songs I still have on my latest album, Joy, that came out last year. People really love that. They love the single that I did, the remake, Janet Jackson, like Wait a While. That's still doing great numbers. Not as great as Ready to Rock, but it's still doing great numbers. People really like that song. And, a lot of wonderful fans of Janet Jackson, because I'm a big fan of Janet and her music, have come to learn who I am because they love that song, because they love the original song that was really beautiful. So, yeah, I think it's just wonderful, and I'm really grateful to my fans who've been very supportive of my music all these years and still continue to look forward for my next new record that's coming out, which would be something wonderful. You and me are involved in this one because it's, our song. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be released in January, and I know it's going to be great. And,
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Because right now, currently, radio's playing a lot of Ready to Rock. So right now, it's currently on the DRT chart, global, and the independent chart. So radio really, really likes that song. So I'm really grateful to that, and I'm just looking forward to the next record.
Okay. So, what are some of your biggest obstacles in the business? because this is a really up and down business. It's really hard. So what are some of the obstacles that you face in your career?
The obstacles, I guess, is because the industry, as far as the internet is concerned, can become convoluted because there's a lot of artists, independent that is, because there's more independent than our mainstream artists. And it can become convoluted. You got to know exactly where your niche is and how to market yourself and how to promote. And I always say get above the noise so people can know that you're there. Your fans can know that you're there. And it could be hard sometimes because everybody's doing it. It's easy to do as far as getting your music out there, but then hard to do to get the fans to pay attention to you or even know you exist or know that your music's there. And, getting on certain platforms that, hard to get on because only sometimes major labels can definitely get their artists there because, they've been around for such a long time and they're global. And so it's easier for a major label artist to get there more than an independent artist. But it's not that you can't. It's just work that you have to do. And it takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, it takes knowledge, and it takes, knowing somebody, or yourself or whatever, or a team of people, to get it to where it needs to go. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly everywhere as we see, because a lot of times it does take a budget. And if you don't have that kind of budget, whereas a major label does, because, they have the budget to get their artists where they need to go. Mm-hmm. It's not as expensive as it used to be, whereas it was difficult then. You couldn't do any of this without social media. I mean, without social media, you really did have to have a label. Whether it was independent or major, you had to have a label to really get your music out there when it was CD time at that time, and the old school way of, doing P1 sheets and shopping it to various, stores and seeing where they pick your record up and put it on the store or do a 30-day consignment. And those things were just, difficult to do. Mm-hmm. But easier now if you just have a distribution, because distribution now could be even for independent artists. So easily to get your music in these stores is the easy part. But the hard part is, okay, now how do you get that song to get heard? How do you make some noise? You do have to first have a great song. Right. I think that's very important. I think people just think that it's just put your song out there and everybody's just going to listen to it just because it's out there. I think it's important to have a great song.
Yeah, I think that's number one.
It's number one. Without that, you just put a song out there and you can put a lot of money behind it. And you can have maybe a great label behind it. You can have whatever you can behind that. But if the song doesn't do well, the fans will not gravitate to it. Because to me, the fans today are the record labels. The record labels push these songs to the fans, but the fans do have to like your song. They do have to like you.
Yes.
I think it's important also to have a great image and carry yourself, whereas you have the fans that can like you and support you and wait for your next record and become that diehard fan that anything and everything you put out, they want to support that record because they love that artist. It's building that fan base. I think it's another thing that's important. It could be difficult if you cannot build that fan base. So to me, relationship is everything. Yeah, my fans are everything.
Definitely.
So I like to build a fan base, whereas I'm in communication with my fans. That I'm always talking to them. That when they message me, I message them back. They email me, I email them back. They inbox me. I'm there. I'm talking. I'm letting them know I'm human just like they are. I'm not, some kind of person act like I'm just too big shot to just talk to anybody. I want to be able to be there with my fans, and that's how you build your fan base, and then your music that has to be great, because that's the first thing. First and foremost, like you said, mm-hmm. If your music is great, that's the first thing they pay attention to. Then they want to pay attention to the artist. Who's singing this behind this record? Then they search that first out. They like what they see, and then you carry yourself well, and you're interacting with your fans. I think that's a plus.
Yeah, that's definitely
a plus. That's a must.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree with that.
And I think it's very important.
So what do you think about the music that's out now? Because like I hear a lot of songs now, artists, they don't use harmony, and the melodies are like basic. So like, what is your creative process, and how do you feel about the music that's out now?
It's great that you mentioned harmony, because to me, a lot of times there's a lot of great songs. I'm not knocking anyone putting out records. I think it's a lot of great songs out there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hear a song that has harmonies, that really gravitates to me because I love harmonies. I mean, I grew up listening to harmonies. I love harmonies. My daughter calls me the harmony queen because I love putting harmonies in my songs. I think that's an element of your record.
Yeah.
You know, if you have, when you know, how to structure your song. I learned this also just listening to a lot of Babyface and his writing ability and the way he writes and what he structures and the interviews that he has had and how he talks about, you know, the formula. I think it's so important, and harmony is just one of them. I mean, it was the 90s at the time when a lot of groups were out, you know, whether it be boy bands or girl bands or even solo artists, those harmonies were always there. Harmonies from the 70s, you know, I love the 70s era with those songs that came out and all those groups and, you know, like the Carpenters and all their songs. I just love harmonies, you know, and I just think that's really important structure of a song with the harmonies. If they don't, at this stage today, there's a lot of lack of that, you know, to a certain extent. There are a lot of great songs and a lot of independent artists as well, even major artists that are now, I'm starting to hear, putting that back in their songs. Because when you don't have that, it's like, it's okay when you try to fake it with the auto-tune, you know, and have that to be that thing to be that carries your song. But you can do that for so long, and after a while, you kind of get tired of hearing it, you know.
Yeah.
But when you hear harmonies that carries that song and then you're singing that first verse and then you wait for that hook or you wait for that pre-hook or you wait for that bridge part, you know, those harmonies just moves you in, you know, and the structure of the song because melody is everything. So without the melody,
melody is key.
Just having, you know, it's about the melody. You can have a great lyrics, but if the melody doesn't fit that, if it's not fitting that track, then it's just a blend song. So it's really important how to structure and write that melody.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
And those harmonies. Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of artists haven't went through the artist development and knowing the song structure, just like you just broke down, you know, the verses, the pre-chorus, bridge, and things like that. So I think that's what's lacking. We have to get back to the development side, you know, of songwriting and, you know, the song structure and song arrangement. So I think that, you know, once that starts to come back in, then we will get that, you know, R&B feel, you know, that soul, that feeling that, you know, that's missing. So like what's like your creative process? Like, do you start out with the melody? Do you start out with lyrics, or you have to hear a beat, or, you know, what's your process?
That's a good question. I actually can do both. There are times that I've written a song without music at all. And I will go to a producer and they will create the music around my melody, around my lyrics, and create, you know, the music around that. Or I can listen to a beat. And the beat, I just don't like any beat. To me, a beat is something that has to move me. It has to be something that just gravitates to my heart. And once I have that beat, I kind of live with it for a moment. And then the lyrics and the melody will come together at the same time to me. Okay. You know, and then when it combines together at the same time, sometimes it could be the verse that I write first, or sometimes it could be the lead vocal, the lead verse first. It just depends what comes first, what comes second. But they come together at the same time in my mind when I first listen to a beat that I'm writing to. And I'll live with it for a moment. Sometimes I'll go back and then I'll hear something different. I may switch it up. It just depends because I really want how I write what I write to fit that beat and make it go like peanut butter and jelly, like it was meant to be, and not just write any old thing on top of a great beat that I hear and said, okay, the beat's nice, but who wrote that and that melody and who's singing that? You know, I really wanted to be like, wow, it's like we came together. You know, it's kind of like how I like about how you and I are as far as our music, because your music is that. And when I listen to your music, how you write and structure your track, it's already beautiful within itself. But then the elements come when you hear that melody arrangement and those vocals and those lyric content that come together to fit like a hand in a glove or peanut butter jelly, as I call it. Right. You know, or like glue that sticks together and it's like it was meant to be, like marriage. So that's how I think about it when I write songs.
Yeah, I believe in, really letting the music, talk to you. You have to come together as one. So
Right.
I think a lot of songs that I like, the classic songs, you can tell that the people had a connection. The energy was right because you can feel it in that record. And I believe in, good energy. So what's that one thing you wish you would have known before you got in the music industry?
Oh, it's hard to say. I don't know, but I've been at this for so long. Yeah, it's just been for so long. That's a hard question to answer. I'm just grateful that where God led me from that point until where I am today is where I'm meant to be. And I've learned along the way because I'm the kind of person I like to grow and I like to keep learning. I don't think I'm ever at a place where I say I've learned enough, I've got enough information, I don't need no more. I want to continue to evolve and continue to grow and learn. And so I didn't know a lot back in the day. I was new and becoming at that time. But as the year go by, I just continued to just vent my wills and go back and restudy. It's like taking vocal training, keep retraining your voice and just come back and retrain myself in the industry. And so I can continue to evolve as the industry itself continues to evolve itself. So when I look back and say, okay, where I was then, I don't want to be that, okay, where you was 15 years ago, you still stuck there. You ain't done nothing. What have you done? I want to say, look, this is what I've done step by step by step. So I've grown a lot since from the beginning of time.
Okay. All right.
But I could say one thing. I think back then, because I was young and naive, I was too trustworthy. And, not knowing the industry at that time, not knowing anything, just really green. I now know that you really have to have a good team of people around you and definitely know the business yourself so that you're not so naive when people come to you and say whatever. You kind of know, okay, no, that don't sound right. Or
right.
No, that's not the way I want to do it. Or no, this is the way it should be, or this is what I've learned and they're not saying this right and this doesn't sound right. You kind of want to know yourself. So I think it's important to know the business and learn the business in order to, be knowledgeable so that you're not so naive. And people can just feed you a lot of anything, but that's how you can easily get burned and get taken financially because you don't know and you're too trustworthy. And that's why I was back then. I was too trustworthy. I just trusted anybody that came and said whatever. And okay, because I was just like, I just want to sing. That's it. I just want to sing. And I didn't know the business didn't want at the time to know how to learn the business. As I took on my own career after 2005, I started doing it on my own, and it wasn't easy at all. It just wasn't easy. But, not saying it's not easy now, but as I continue to learn gradually, and because I have the passion for it, I continue to grow and it becomes more easier because I have a desire and willing to want to continue to learn and grow. And of course, to help others as well.
Okay. So with you working with a lot of like R&B artists, how was the transition going into like doing the gospel music, that genre? So was it a hard transition or how did people accept that?
It wasn't hard for me because, again, I grew up singing in the church. So I grew up singing a lot of gospel songs. I was, always from the time I was 13 years old, 14 and 15, I was always the lead singer in the church and just even at that time writing my own songs, teaching it to the choir, having to sing my own songs then as a child, And so I remember talking then to my mom. And I think about my mom a lot. I'm always saying it because she was my biggest cheerleader, but she's no longer here with me today. I lost her in 2008.
Wow.
But she was always the one that, that 2018, she died. She was my inspiration for the most part because I was always going to her and I would say, Mom, when I was a kid, and I would say, if I was to sing love songs, is that wrong? Is that a sin? And my mom would say, no, that's not wrong. It's not a sin. You sing it to someone that you love, someone you care about, and there's a lot of people, God is love, she would say. And as long as you're not saying anything disrespectful or degrading to people or hurtful or whatever, And so I started writing a lot of love songs, and so it was easy for me to transition simply because I will always pray before I write songs and just ask God to lead and guide me about the melody and the lyrics, how I should write and structure it. And the songs have substance and has a meaning. So that's what I would feel, when I would present that song. It wasn't hard for me to do, turning from, the R&B into the gospel, because I still kind of do both now, because in 2017, I did release an album called I'm Who I Am.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an R&B album. And then I have another album coming out next year. It's going to be another R&B album. So it's a lot of the songs that were already pre-released before. However, they weren't digitally released. So some of those songs that I've written, it'll now be for the first time. And my fans will be able to get a chance to listen to these great, songs that I have. And the album's going to be, I think, Angel Sessions Best of R&B. But I will have some new songs on there that have never been released that that are brand new songs, 2020, 2021, that will be on that album as well, and combine them together. So yeah, my fans kind of know now that I do both, because in the beginning, when I first stepped in, to this in the new school way around 2012, introducing my gospel, music, people did not know much about my R&B stuff. They didn't know about Introduce the Angel that was on Ichiban Records. They didn't know about Love Ride that was on Boat Records. They just assumed that I was a new artist coming out like any and everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I always had to constantly talk about it. And, and even if you Google my name, you will not see those two albums combined. I'll have to talk about it. But eventually people started hearing a lot about it. So they kind of know now, okay, these were her two albums, the same girl as the girl that did R&B. And my music, the way I write them, is, substance. It's not something that I would feel ashamed of saying.
So how was it being signed to Ichiban Records?
To me, it was like at that time, I felt like, oh, I made it, because I had been trying so hard to get a record deal at that time. When I used to tour for the Budweiser Best of the West competition that used to go on in Los Angeles. This was before, The Voice and American Idol and all those shows. This is when all the artists from around the Los Angeles area, all the labels from Sony to MCA, Mercury Records at that time, Universal, RCA, all the labels were there, and they would come and they would sit at a panel, and then we have a big audience, like 700-800 people, and then we have like maybe 10 artists that will perform, and these labels are always looking for an artist. And so we will audition and sing and perform in front of these labels. And so I did that like a good 4 times, and perform in front of Sony. And we had to audition at first before I even performed. I had to audition in front of Sony, Universal, MCA, all these labels first, mm-hmm. to wow them before I was accepted to perform. And then they would love my performance. And then I was like, I was hoping, because RCA at that time was really looking to sign me. But I was new then, so I was excited, and I had wild. And I was like, oh, wow, why can't they sign me now? And when I was talking to my manager then, and she's like, well, you have to wow the crowd. They wanted to be wow the crowd. Well, I was young. I didn't know what that meant, but okay, so this was like 94. So I was excited. I mean, RCA was ready to sign me. But when I performed, I was new and naive. So I wasn't at that time used to performing on stage. So I had stage fright. So I was like nervous, I wasn't nervous doing the audition, but I was nervous in front of those 700-800 people, and in front of the judge panels. And I was like, and I'm singing my original song. I'm not singing a cover song. I'm singing my original song. Oh, and it was the same song I sang to them in the audition that they loved. And yet, when I just got stage fright, just being on stage, and I had all these other great artists. And I wasn't the first, so they're blowing and they're sounding wonderful. And I'm like, oh, I got to go after her, so it was just making me so nervous. And I just, at that time, just wasn't like ready. It's just like, I was just, I wasn't as polished performing live at that time. So, yeah, blew that one, but I had another opportunity the next 2 months later, because I remember crying like I wanted to sink under the ground. I was so hurt that I just felt so terrible, that I just did not sound wonderful that night. I was so nervous. And, but God blessed me to get another chance. And then I had another opportunity with Mercury Records that wanted to sign me, but that's a long story because, if God wanted me there, I would have been there. And so, but I had opportunities, and those were moments that, I still cherish because, it helped me to grow, and it helped me to get over my stage fright too. It helped me to, not be afraid. And I remember my mom talking to me and said, don't be afraid. Just look at them and just picture them, like they're just angels watching you. You're singing to God, and you're just, so I learned it over the years not to be, stage fright and afraid and things like that as I got more, involved in vocal training and start doing vocal lessons and training with, my teachers, and then performing a whole lot. This is before Ichiban and before Boat Records and before everything else I did, there are steps that I took.
So it sounds like that was part of your artist development and showing you, how serious the business is and being ready.
Right. Because I wasn't ready at that time. I thought I was with the songs, even with the audition was wonderful. The labels loved me. But when it came time at that time to perform on stage, I wasn't polished enough at that time.
Yeah, being on stage is a totally different beast. A lot of people can go in the studio, make a record because it may be a few people in the studio. But once you hit that stage and you look out there and it's 800 to 1,000 people, or some people even freeze up when it's 20, 30 people, so that's the preparation, that artist development that a lot of artists have to go through. And it's good that you went through that early on.
Oh, man, I'm glad I did, because from that until like around 2007, 2008, when I performed in front of the Warriors in the Bay Area, and it was 20 to 25,000 people out there.
Wow.
So I was able now to perform in front of 25,000 people when I performed the Star Spangled Banner for the Warriors, and I did it twice. They loved my show, so they loved my performance so much they asked me to come back again for another game. So I was able to perform for the Warriors twice. So that experience back in 1994 and 95 taught me as I grew and continued to learn more, as I continued to perform on stage, and not to become afraid to overcome my stage fright fears, that I was no longer afraid to perform in front of thousands of people.
Wow. Yeah. Artist development is the key. Have to master your craft and keep working and working and working at it. With all the things that's going on, all the changes, in the music industry, like, how do you feel about ownership of the music? Because it's a lot of talk, going on about artists owning their own masters and things like that. So how do you feel about that?
I think it's wonderful that you're able to own your own masters, because you're able to control, and pretty much that's where the money is, publishing purposes. You get paid through royalties, mechanical royalties, but you definitely get paid for publishing, which is the bulk of the money with owning your masters, so I think it's very important, to own your own masters so that you can take it where you want it to go and not have someone trying to control you, whereas now, don't get me wrong. I think when an artist is signed to a major label, you can't blame the label for wanting to own the masters, simply because if they're putting millions of dollars behind you, it's their money. You came in without a pocket to in, I should say. You could put it that way, but you didn't have nothing in your pocket. You weren't even a name. You just was a name of someone that your family knew, but the world didn't know you at that time. But they put you on the market, and now you're global. Now you're worldwide. But it was their means of knowledge, their team of people, and their pockets that put you there. And they got deep, deep pockets. So you have to learn the contract and learn to read the contract and understand what you're reading, get an attorney. And if you're willing to do it because, you know, you want an opportunity, you can't get mad at the labels by saying, okay, now I'm mad because you made me global. Now I'm a big superstar. No, I want my master. You want it back. And now you want to act like you want to fight your label. Now, you weren't thinking about that when they put you out there. You weren't thinking about that when they were spending millions of dollars on you. You weren't thinking about it when you didn't have a pot to piss in. And
Right.
now you want to turn around and kind of piss on them and because you got a name now and now you want you to. I don't think that's cool either. You know, and I'm saying that because I own my own label. I wouldn't want no artist doing that to me.
Right.
You know, if I had an artist and I'm Atlas Lee Entertainment, you know, me and two other founders, me, Rodney Cruz and Demetrius Gidry, we have our own label. We sign an artist. You weren't a nobody. We bring you in. We put all this money behind you. We make you who you are. And now you're bigger. And now you want to act like you're better than me. And now you want to act like, oh, now you want to fight against your own label and want you to ask and stuff. But we're the ones who put it out there and spent all that money on you. It's not fair. So you got to understand from a both standpoint. I do because I come from as an artist and now I'm a business owner of my own company. So
Right.
I understand the labels at the same time. You know, I don't fault them sometimes for the way they feel. I'm not speaking for all the labels. I understand there are some that may not always do right by the artist, but there are many of those that it's called business. They're business. So the labels are not even trying to be your friend, things like that. They're not, hey, here's $2 or $3, $5 million. It's your money. Go ahead and keep it. You know, be a big star. And piss on us when you become star and when you become big. You just can't do that to a label no more than an artist can. So I understand it from both standpoints because I hear that argument a lot. And at the same time thinking because I'm a business owner, would I want an artist doing that to me?
Right.
Would I want them to walk out on me and now they want to sue me and they want to do this and do that? It's like after I made you and helped you and become you who you are, now you don't know me no more because I made you a global star. And I just, you know, that don't set well with me either.
Yeah, I see both sides. I think when it comes to the ownership of the masters, I think it should be at least an even split if both parties are investing into, you know, a career. It needs to be at least an even split. But a lot of artists, you know, they want 100% control. Well, you should have basically invested 100% in yourself and not go to a label if you want 100% control.
Yeah, right. You can't have 100% of control after the label made you a star, after the label put all that money behind you, you know, and granted, yes, of course they're going to want to make their money back and they do make their percentage. And then you feel like, well, you made your money back. I own the masters. No, read your contract and understand what the contract says. Just because you're paying them back, because it is a loan, you know, doesn't mean now you own the masters because they actually pay for that. That's really that's what they're doing. They're paying to own the masters. However, like you said, it does make sense if you're going to sign a deal, you have to. Now it's difficult to negotiate some kind of a bargain that way when you don't come in doing anything and expect the label just to say, okay, you know, you have to be like someone like a Taylor Swift. Now, once you have built yourself up, you become a name, you got something, then you can go into a label and then you guys can sit down together and you can both negotiate and they come to an agreement and you come to an agreement, you guys can come neck to neck and then, you know, on how you're going to split the masters. If you're both going to own 50-50 or however you're going to work that out.
Right.
But don't come in expecting the label to just give you everything and you want to own 100% of everything. And you didn't come in with nothing in your pocket. They came in with everything and push you and make you are who you are. And all of a sudden you want to fight the label later on. That's not cool.
I tell every artist it's 10% talent, 90% business. And
That's
a lot
right.
of artists, they sit back and just go to the studio and they just want to create songs and they don't think about what they're signing. They don't think about everything that's in the contract because you're only going to get what you negotiate. And that's point blank. You know, you get what you negotiate. If you go in knowing that you want to own your masters, do it in the beginning and don't sign that contract unless you get what you want. So, you know, you have to be upfront and honest with yourself about what it is that you want. Do you want just this advancement? You know, the advancement money that they give you, because when they give you that advancement, you sign in that contract, it's stating that they own those masters.
That's right. Exactly. And if it states that and they're giving you an advancement, you sign on to them. You can't go back and say now you're angry with them and you want to own it and you're trying to fight and you're going and you're making it nasty. I mean, you don't want to ruin your reputation in that way. You don't want to ruin your brand in doing that. I just don't think that's cool. You should have known that, like you said, up front. Don't wait till now you're global and now you feel like I got my fans. Your fans are not a label. I mean, when I say that fans are a new label, I mean they're the ones who stream your music and buy your music, but they don't know the business.
Exactly.
They don't know the business. They aren't the one who made you who you are. So you have to make sure you know what you're getting into before you get into it, just like you said. And half of it you bring to the table before you even sign with them. You got to come in and say, this is what I have to offer. And then they can come and meet you halfway. And you guys can negotiate something. That is if they're willing to do so. And if not, if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. Don't sign.
Facts. Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Because like you said, at the end of the day, it's business. It's the music business. Is not personal. It's not a friendship thing. What's up, man? I'm going to get you out there. We homies. No, it's a music business. The labels are in it to make money.
Yes.
They're not in it to make you a star. You make money. Exactly. Exactly. Like you want to make money. And like you said, you got to have a good team of people because not all the time is the labels the ones screwing people. Sometimes your manager's screwing you.
Yeah, because a lot of artists
sometimes
don't
the managers
know.
are not. Yeah, they're not honest with you. They'll say, "Oh, you only made this much when you really made that much." Or they'll give, or maybe it's a production deal you signed. Maybe it's not the label that screwed you, but the production company that screwed you that you signed with.
Yeah,
you just don't know.
I've had managers where they double dipped. Taking a percentage here, taking a percentage there. Yeah, I know. Early on in my career, I had to learn where the money was coming from, when the checks was coming, So I had to figure all of those things out because it was a lot of money involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to know who to trust. I had to learn the business so that I won't get taken, so that, I can understand. But like you said, I think it's important to own your own masters, of course. But if you're going to sign with a label, you cannot get upset with them when like you said, it's a music business. It's business, and they're giving you an advance. It's for that purpose. The advance to, they're putting you in the studio. They're giving you advance, and they're gonna own that master. And they're letting you know this. It's in the contract. Do not get upset with them, and then all of a sudden you want to fight them with tooth and nails. What you want, you want to own everything, and you had nothing to begin with when you first came to them. You just wanted to be a star. That's all you want. You just want to sing or rap or whatever.
Yeah, they're in it for the fame.
And then you get big-headed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of artists, sign record deals and they only look at the page that the signature goes on. They never, ever read that contract. And that's why years down the line, you look in it and you don't own anything. Some artists never received a royalty check because they're constantly, balances is rolling over and things like that. So the label is not recouping money. So they never get a check. So you have to look at all of those things. They don't understand the point structure. What is the publishing? What is the mechanical royalty? Most artists don't know what BMI and ASCAP is. They don't know about the, performing rights organizations. So it's hard for artists to get paid when they don't know the business side. So I think artists have to really, really dig deep into the business side as well as the creative side because it's two sides to the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Taking care of your business before you release your record, and understanding it. And like you said, if you can't read the contract, get an attorney that can help you break it down and read it, so that you know what you're signing into, even if it is 100-page or whatever. Don't be so greedy and say, oh, it's Sony. I can't wait a minute, sign with Sony. And all you do is just sign. But then you're upset after a while. It's like, no. When they gave you the agreement, that means they're letting you know what's inside that contract. They're not signing you and there's no agreement. That's different. They're giving you everything in that contract. You have to learn to read it. And once you sign it, you cannot complain later on and say, but. So sometimes there are artists that get a good advantage. If you overspend your money with all these jewelries and dumb stuff, You can't get mad again because now you overspent your money. You think the water is going to continue to pour. The water will run dry eventually. Ask MC Hammer.
Yes.
You know, and you're not going to always have it. Look at the pandemic we're in now. Did we ever know 2020 was going to get here and this would happen? Where there's right now, you can't tour and do other things. So now you got to find other ways to make money. Learn to budget your money. Learn to not overspend with all this lavish living, you know, and lavish lifestyle. And now you're in a point now, you can't even pay your bills because everything has kind of is on standstill right now. You can't get mad at the label for that. You look at yourself in the mirror. Yeah. And look at yourself in the mirror. Take some responsibility and not put your responsibility on other people.
So what would be the one tip or advice that you would give to an artist that's looking to walk in your shoes, you know, getting in the music industry, you know, at a young age? What advice would you give to them?
I say that, like I said, it's the answer is right there in their face. Hopefully they have a computer and you have a cell phone. Most people, 99% do. And utilize it and start learning the business. If you're going to if you're an independent artist, you have a desire to want to sing, and whether you write your own song or someone else writes the song for you, you can utilize, you know, a lot of these great, you know, online Reverb Nation or SoundCloud. Upload your music and just, you know, start sharing it with others and see what they think and get some bites from it. And kind of like ask yourself, if you really want to do this and take it serious, you really do have to learn the business and kind of learn by doing some reading. There's a lot of great tools on YouTube that can teach you. A lot of people up there that are always talking about things about the business that you can learn, and if you're really sincere. And, you know, don't be lazy. Don't expect someone else to take you on and get you out there and make you a star, because I know that happens a lot of times when artists will come at me and they're wanting me to do all this for them, but I'm looking at and seeing what are they doing for themselves. And if you're not doing anything for yourself, you got to believe in yourself in order for someone to believe in you. If you're not doing anything at all for yourself, don't expect someone to believe in you. Mm-hmm. You got to take the first step forward to allow someone to see what you're doing and say, oh, okay, and they can support and help that. I think it's important to learn the business. So, and, you know, continue to just put out a song if you can and showcase that song and start building your fan base, you know, asking them what they think of this song and, you know, build relationships. I think it's really important. And once you build a follower and build your fan base on your social media account, sharing what you have, you know, then go after getting a independent distribution, you know, and whereas you can now get your music on many platform streams and stores, things like that. And yeah, take it from there. You do have to take baby steps, one step at a time. Because it's not an overnight success. It never has been. It never will be. I know it's easier for someone that's signed. That can happen for them, of course, because they're now a big machine. But I'm saying if you're alone by yourself trying to do this, it does take time, mm-hmm. but you can do it. But you have to be persistent.
All right, so tell us where we could find your music. Do you have a website?
Yeah, my website is www.angelsessions.com, and my label and my company. Shout out to Rodney Cruz and Demetrius Guidry, our label, Atlas Elite Entertainment. That is www.atlaseliteentertainment.com. And you can find me on social media. I am verified on all my accounts. So Angel Sessions on Twitter, and you can find me on Instagram at Angel Sessions, and you can find me on Facebook. I do have my fan page, Angel Sessions Music, and also my personal page, Angel Sessions. And then you can find me on, you know, LinkedIn. I'm there as well. And yeah, all my music is in online store. My latest single, Ready to Rock. And you can download that, stream it on Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, everywhere, you know, streaming is, or download it, and all the major, you know, stores. And yeah, just continue to just looking forward to that next record I'm going to come out with, you know, So I'm excited about that again. And yeah.
When is that coming out, the next record?
I don't have a date yet for that. It will be January. That's my push for January of 2021. So I'm preparing for that. So yeah, I don't have an actual date yet, but it will be sometime in January.
Okay. I'm excited to hear everything that's going to be on it. Know it's going to be great as usual.
Yeah, the singles first. I'm going to put the single out first and then the album. The album I probably won't put out until sometime in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, it was a pleasure having you on my podcast. It was definitely a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'll be looking forward to, hearing more music and doing more work with you. And we're going to keep, good music going.
That's it. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for joining the Hitlanders Podcast. And we're signing off.
Thank you, Tizone. Have a wonderful day, and shout out to all my fans out there.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please support by leaving a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Your support is greatly appreciated.